subsidy from the government. It's supposed to create jobs, but that's not how it's spent. They use tax and soft money to support congressmen who will vote for weapons programs again and again, and let them dump toxic waste where the young ones play.
INGE made the bullets that shot JFK.
You contribute to this chain every time you buy a product sponsored on this show.
That's what NBC doesn't want you to know. So the next time, please stand by, please stand by.
Well, the problem is that, you know, there's a lot of problems, but the one way you can head it off is by making more people aware of what's going on. And if you go on YouTube, for instance, you type in Obama plus West Wing, you'll see that his scripts are written by the same guy who was writing the West Wing scripts for the character, who is a minority character on the show, and they intersperse the clips back and forth, and you can see it's theater, it's Hollywood.
America,
vote for the person who shares your ideals,
your hopes and your dreams.
your hopes, your dreams.
And if you will join with me in this improbable quest,
You can go back to Seattle and Boston,
from Florida to Oregon,
to Miami, to Omaha,
from the plains of Iowa
to Tulsa and Chicago,
to the South Carolina coast,
and Atlanta with your head held high and say,
yes, we can. Thank you, South Carolina. I love you.
Right? It's artificially created speeches and feelings and, you know, pins on the lapels, and when all the candidates are speaking at the AIPAC meeting and kissing ass, and no, if they don't kiss ass, I mean, they mentioned that in Charlie Wilson, right? Tom Hanks, you know, the Charlie Wilson character says, look, I'm elected by people of East Texas, but Jews pay for everything. The AIPAC, it's all the lobby groups that are paying for these characters.
You sit at the intersection of the State Department, the Pentagon, and the CIA. You meet in a soundproof room underneath the Capitol, and you preside over a secret and unlimited budget for the 3 agencies you would need to conduct a covert war. Isn't that right?
I also have seats at the Kennedy Center.
Isn't that how you were able to double the CIA budget for black ops in Afghanistan just by saying so?
Why are you only asking me questions you already know the answers to?
Why is Congress saying one thing and doing nothing?
Well, tradition mostly. But I have to tell you, I'm elected by Jews.
How many Jews do you have in your district?
7. But congressmen aren't elected by voters, they're elected by contributors. And mine are in, well, New York, Florida, Hollywood, because I'm one of Israel's guys on the Hill. And I don't know how they're going to feel about me taking up the cause of Muslims.
Right?
Right.
And so, those aren't my words. Somebody who wrote those in a major film put those in there. They're just observing history. Right? And so the point is, there are special interest groups that are not made up of just one religion like most people would want you to think. You know, if you talk about AIPAC, people are going to throw anti-Semitism at you, but the point is, AIPAC does not represent the average Jewish person's interest, and that's in the words of people on YouTube who are Jewish. Right? I'm just reflecting back what I'm looking at here.
The show for so long that to be an anti-Semite means you would have to hate the true Semites, which are the Palestinians and the Arabs. You know.
Yeah, from the tribe of Shem, right? The
But
Shemites.
now, you know, the Jewish religion has taken over the term Semite and adopted it for themselves and their own purposes. And we all know how I feel about all religions, so we don't need to go there either.
Right.
You talked a little bit about, in an email, Richard, you talked about our blind spot. I think that that's important because I think we have a lot of blind spots. I don't think it's just one.
Well, I think a lot of things hide in our blind spot. In the blind spot, if you want to make it in a singular form, it's that people don't realize that there's something going on beyond the information that's publicly available. So if you look at the public state, what's publicly available information, you know, the typical beliefs of checks and balances in government, etc., that's the right hand. And there's a deep government. There's a, you know, the secret government. There's all this covert funding from the black markets and the drug trade, and that's a left hand. And what I'm saying is, it's not the right hand and left hand aren't working together. The right hand, that is the American public mind, has no idea that the left hand even exists, let alone what it's doing to the rest of us. Right?
Absolutely.
And so,
I think it only exists in our imaginations.
Right, and they just get in their, Fox News and CNN News, they just figure whatever they're telling them is absolutely true and there's nothing else to discuss.
and that's the most important. That there's nothing else to discuss. It's already been critically thought about. Just consume it. It's fast food for your mind, and the same thing has happened to the American mind as it has happened to the American body from eating McDonald's for 20 or 30 years.
Right, junk goes in, junk comes out.
Right, people are obese in the mind, and yet they don't have any useful, nutritional, knowledgeable muscle or wisdom. All they have is all these clips from, every theme song, all these sound bites, all these things from pop American culture that really don't add up to a hill of beans when you understand that the only important information, the only information worth paying for, is that which you are not being given, that which is showing you what the left hand is doing, because that is how they're taking all your power away. And when you understand that, that's your blind spot. And when you recognize what's in your blind spot disappears. That solves the problem. You take your power back, and the people who were draining you of your energy through taking your attention and giving you nothing in return are left to evolve and adapt or go extinct. And that's how life should work.
Well, it's like the old-fashioned magicians. Remember, they used to say, watch this hand. Well, our eyes were busy on one hand. We didn't even bother looking at the other one. But we go beyond that because we don't even see the other hand. Let's get back to the blind spots. What about gas prices? Do you think that's another blind spot Americans have? Do you think they really believe that it's all because we're running out of oil that we've got to pay this kind of money?
Well, go ahead.
I'm sorry. It's funny, Maria. My dad was telling me the other day that people are starting to talk at the gas pumps. And I've experienced it myself a few times. It's like you're standing there pumping, and all of a sudden, it's as if people just have to break the silence and say something, commiserate, whatever. But I've noticed myself that people are talking, and they're wondering, and they don't understand it. They want to know when it's going to end. They're asking questions, but the media, all the media does is cover the gas prices. It's rising gas prices, and it makes the food costs rise, and it does all of these things, but they will never get at the root cause, and they will never explain the price to you. They'll never explain the cost.
Right. How much of it do you guys think is market manipulation?
100% of it. It's all a ruse. The petroleum standard in the first place is an artificial standard that we never would have gotten onto had we been given all the information up front. We would have lynched the guys who proposed that and said that's not realistic at all. What's realistic is growing a sustainable crop that can meet all of our energy and food sources and not making that one crop prohibited. Except the people who make all the money from the plastics and the gasoline and all that stuff, the people who are stealing all your money right now, are the same people who made that single plant, that miracle crop, illegal. So, yeah, exactly.
Well, and those corporations are mandated by law to profit above the environment, to profit above human suffering. So it's not as if DuPont is going to come out and tell us about hemp, because DuPont's shareholders, would have a fit. They'd have a field day with that. So none of these corporations are going to do it for us. It's up to us to realize and to take action ourselves.
Well, and if there wasn't something to that, like, some listeners could say, oh, that's a bunch of baloney. Well, there's a guy named Jack Hare who's offering $100,000 to prove that hemp is not the most sustainable, efficient fuel, non-polluting fuel, the answer to all of our fuel crises. If you think I'm full of shit, then go take the $100,000, and if you can't take his $100,000, then you better do your homework and start, realizing what's going on. It's a scam. The entire thing is a scam.
Well, I think our whole economy is a scam. We might as well toss in everything else, too, from
Sure.
banking, insurance, and the rest of it.
Yeah, because the guy...
We're going to go to a short break. When we get back, let's talk about one of my local heroes, Blair Gadsby.
Right on.
Who I got a note today is on his 18th day, and his final day, of his fast to get to talk to Insane McCain. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Actually, the courage of Blair and what he is doing, putting himself out, putting his life on the line literally to bring attention to this issue of the need for an independent investigation.
Members, I would like to introduce a very special guest who has been joined today by several of his closest friends. Up in the gallery, we have many of the members of the 9/11 for Truth group. people who are asking for a new, independent investigation of the attacks of 9/11.